Members of council, if I can please have you take your seats. I would call this meeting to order. Members of council, would you please stand for the national anthem? Please remain standing for a moment of silence and personal reflection. Thank you. Okay, members, today we gratefully acknowledge that we are meeting on the traditional territory of the Mississaugas of the New Credit First Nation and home to many diverse Aboriginal peoples. For the benefit of those who are connected to the internet, the City Clerk has posted all of the agenda materials for today's meeting at toronto.ca/council. Members, we have a presentation this morning to recognize the City receiving the Sustainable Communities Award from the Federation of Canadian Municipalities for the Home Energy Loan Program and the High-Rise Retrofit Improvement Support Program. I would like to call upon Councillor Layton to come forward for the presentation.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Good morning, fellow councillors and our mayor. I'm sure he'll be here in a moment. I'm pleased to share with you this morning the two innovative city programs that have won an award at the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. The city's home energy loan program, known as HELP, and High-Rise Retrofit Improvement Support Program, known as High-Rise. And whoever we have working in Stratcom to develop acronyms for our city programs, I think they should get an award for these two as well. They have together won a Sustainable Community Award in the Energy Program category amongst all Canadian municipalities. These programs, the first of their kind in Ontario, provide low-interest loans to residential property owners to complete energy and water efficiency improvements and pay for them over time via installments on their property tax bill. This is a win-win for the residents and the city. Homeowners and apartment owners are able to access competitive financing to cover 100% of the cost of improving energy efficiency of their properties, and residents benefit from reduced energy bills and improved comfort resulting from these improvements, and the city benefits from a reduction in energy use and emissions that contribute to climate change. And the programs are cost neutral to the city. Let me just repeat that for a second. The programs are cost neutral to the city. Back in 2013, after the city successfully lobbied the provincial government to amend the local improvement charge regulation to allow municipalities to create innovative financing programs, I saw the opportunity to help our residents and to help our environment. We engaged many stakeholders in developing this program from beginning to end. It was about a year and a half. I think this is a good lesson to councillors that are hoping to put forward large programs of this size. It was a year and a half of meeting with stakeholders from every discipline, every background, before I even put the first letter forward to the Economic Development Committee. And that letter had the support of most, if not all, organized labor, including trades and public sector labor. It had support from the banking sector, it had support from the environmental sector, and it had support from Civic Action, from the Board of Trade, from the Real Estate Board, and it goes on. When these programs were launched in early 2014, and the goal of investing $20 million over 3 years into 1,000 single-family homes and 10 multi-unit residential buildings began. Think about it for a second. Last term, the last administration made the largest contribution to fight climate change of any municipality in Canada, probably ever. And we did it unanimously. Just think about that. If you remember what it was like last term. To date, approximately $5 million in loans has been committed to approximately 90 retrofit projects across both HELP and high-rise. And just to put it in context, because this was originally intended to be an economic development tool, the green building industry account for 300,000 full-time jobs in 2014. That's more jobs than the oil and gas industry. And these jobs are to create energy-efficient buildings that will help Canada meet its climate change obligations and help Toronto be a leader globally in fighting climate change. A special thanks to our program goes to the funders. We have had a handful of industry funders help us in the evaluation and production of this program. The IESO, the former IESO, I guess, no, current IESO, former OPA, Toronto Atmospheric Fund, Natural Resource Canada, Enbridge Gas, and Toronto Hydro for their generous support in ensuring and helping us design a program that we hope will be a model for other municipalities in the GTA and across Ontario. And we know that there are municipalities, dozens of municipalities, waiting to see how we do here in Toronto. I spent my Tuesday driving to Guelph and back to speak to 6 city councillors there, because they will be considering a similar program at their council called GEARS very soon. I'd also like to help the many staff members who helped put this together. Some of you may have tried to dissuade me in those early days and told me of the roadblocks that would be in front of us. I'm looking at you, Mr. Pasternak. But you helped me persevere, and then you helped bring to light what is a great program, and you deserve a huge amount of thanks. And I'm just going to go through it quickly, all the way from the top and the right, and it pretty much goes, the first 3 names there: Josie Scioli, Jim Baxter, Mark Beckering. I kid you not, that's the order on the sheet. Marco Iamcampo, Charlene Kong, Sylvia Fraser, Adirondack Akande, John Langarini, Scott Pasternak, Christine Hucanix, I'm sorry, close. I'd also like to thank one consultant and one member of the public who helped in those early days, Sonia Persram and Stan McCooch, who's a municipal lawyer that helped guide this. We also have here someone really, and I've never met her before, but someone really unique here. Marie-Noelle Millard was the first HELP, the Home Energy Loan Program applicant in the City of Toronto. We have her here today. Thank you very much, Marie-Noelle, for putting your faith in something new and something exciting, and I hope that it paid off in the end, and I hope your house is more comfortable as a result. We'd like to show you a little video that was produced by FCM on the program to help educate other municipalities. You'll see a few staff featured in this short video, and I thank you very much for your time. Let's roll it. I'm just going to quickly put a plug, because we're not done here yet. This is just a pilot. There will be a report back, but we're running into a couple of roadblocks. One is with mortgage lender consent. Turns out the bank doesn't want us loaning their mortgages money. They want to make money off those mortgages. We're also having a little bit of issue with our federal partners with CMHC. We hope we do, because of the mortgage insurance. We're hoping to get through that. But there are always roadblocks in the way of good things, and so we hope that we can help take those down in the coming year. I just wanted to show you the beautiful award that we got. It was sitting under here. I should have showcased it out before. The deal is I'm going to get it Thursdays and Fridays. Marco's going to have Mondays, Tuesdays. We'll let Mark, Josie, and Jim split it the other day. And Scott gets it every second Sunday, right? Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Layton. Councillor Ainsley, I understand that you wish to make a brief announcement.
Yep. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I wanted to announce it on Thursday, February 25th. I had the privilege of representing Toronto City Council at the first annual induction ceremony for the Toronto Sports Hall of Honour, located at the Toronto Pan Am Sports Centre in Scarborough. The Hall of Honour is a legacy initiative of the City of Toronto's Host City Showcase program from the 2015 Pan Am Parapan Games. The purpose is to recognize and celebrate people and groups for their sports contributions and accomplishments. The recognition wall, which is on the screen, the main screen, was unveiled that evening at the induction ceremony in a unique way to showcase and honor the inductees, and was definitely a highlight of the evening. This year's inductees were as follows: Athlete of the Year, Vaughn Davis, Anthony Gale, Shelley Gauthier, Milos Ronic. The Team of the Year, York University Lions men's soccer team. Coach of the Year was Miss Jennifer Yi Lee. Builders, Archie Allison and Alan Brooks. I'm pleased to say that Mr. Brooks is here. Many of you will know Mr. Brooks. Mr. Brooks actually organized his first race marathon going back in 1983. It evolved into the Scotiabank Marathon and Half Marathon that sees 26,000 participants come to our city each and every year and be involved in that. The highlight after that for Mr. Brooks, he and his team were asked to run and organize all of the walks and marathons for the 2015 Pan Am Parapan Games. Thank you very much, Mr. Brooks, and congratulations. Also included in the inductees, sports legends Johnny Bauer, Marilyn Bell Delicio, Angela James, George Seymour Lyon, Mariana Vandermeer. The Spirit of Sport Award or inductee was Herbert Carnegie. Lifetime Achievement was Glenn Tarver. And I would also like to let everybody know that nominations will reopen for the next round of inductees on April 15th. You can visit toronto.ca/TSHH for details, and be sure to send in all of your nominations. Congratulations to all of the inaugural inductees, and I would like to especially thank the nominating committee for all of their hard work over the past year, vetting all of the applications, and also to all of the staff, in particular our General Manager of Parks, Forestry and Recreation, Janie Romoff, for coordinating everything and making sure that this all happens. So thank you, Janie.
Thank you. I will now call upon the committee chairs to introduce their reports. The chairs can speak about the reports for up to 5 minutes. Councillor Holiday, you have a motion to introduce the Etobicoke York Community Council report.
Yes, thank you, Speaker. That the report from Meeting 12 of the Etobicoke York Community Council listed on the agenda of Council be presented for consideration.
Thank you. Councillor Pasternak, you have a motion to introduce the North York Community Council report.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. That the report from Meeting 12 of the North York Community Council listed on the agenda of Council be presented for consideration.
Thank you. Councillor Lee, you have a motion to introduce the Scarborough Community Council report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And that the report from Meeting 12 of the Scarborough Community Council listed on the agenda of council be presented for consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Layton, you have a motion to introduce the Toronto and East York Community Council report. Councillor Wong Tam, can you just, the motion is on Councillor Layton's desk.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, just a sec. Okay.
Yes, thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I'd like to move that the report from meeting 14 of the Toronto and East Shore Community Council listed on the agenda of council be presented for consideration.
Thank you. Councillor Campbell, you have a motion to introduce the new business from city officials.
That the new business from city officials listed on the agenda of council be presented for consideration.
Thank you. All those in favor of the motions? Opposed, if any, carried. Are there any declarations of interest? Please indicate the committee, the item or motion number, and the nature of the interest. Councillor Karagianis?
CC 15.4. This is to do with Parks and Rec. My daughter works for Parks and Rec, therefore I'd like to declare an interest.
Okay. Are there any more? Okay. I will now call for petitions. Are there any petitions at this time? No. Okay. Members, I will now review the order paper. There are 4 items with confidential information on the agenda. I propose that council set a time for closed session if required once we have reviewed which items will be held for further consideration. Members, before I take additional holds, I need to rule on 2 matters on the agenda. The first is Toronto and East York Community Council Item T 14.2, the final report on a zoning amendment for various properties on McCall Street and Stephanie Street. I have been advised that recommendation 8 in this item is delegated traffic matter that must be decided by the Toronto and East York Community Council and not by City Council. As a result, I am ruling that recommendation 8 in this item is not properly before City Council. That recommendation will be submitted to the Toronto and East York Community Council. The second item is item T 14.62 on traffic control signals, College Street and Shaw Street. I have been advised that recommendation 2 in this item is also a delegated traffic matter that must be decided by the Toronto and East York Community Council and not by City Council. I am ruling that recommendation 2 is not properly before City Council, and that recommendation will also be resubmitted to the Toronto and East York Community Council. Okay, members, the mayor has called a special meeting for 2 p.m. this afternoon to consider a report from the city manager and the director of employee and labor relations on results of the collective bargaining negotiations with QP Local 79 full-time unit, Unit B part-time and recreation workers part-time. In the event that council doesn't complete the agenda for this meeting before that time, council will recess at 12:30, convene the special meeting at 2, and will reconvene this meeting once that special meeting has been adjourned. If council finishes this current meeting before 12:30, members should be aware that council cannot start the special meeting until 2 p.m. The city clerk has noted the items that members wish to hold. I will now go through the items listed on the order paper to take additional holds. I will recognize requests to make matters urgent and time-specific after I go through the items for additional holds. Once the order paper has been approved by council, any change will need a 2/3 vote. Page 2. On page 2, yes, I know, I'm trying to find the number. Which? I would like to hold EY 12.13. I have to make an amendment. The solicitor has advised me. Pardon? What buttons are not working? Whose button is not working? For what? Oh, your buttons are not working for the screen. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Okay, we'll start on my left. Okay, we'll start on my left. Who wants to hold an item down? Put your hand up. On page 2. Councillor Pasternak.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd like to hold NY 12.7. I just want to be recorded in the negative when that comes up, so we can release it whenever.
Chainsaw. It is chainsaw. I was going to say Jimmy.
Okay. Yes, we're on page 2. No, he's on page 2. At the bottom of the page, NY 12.7, Councillor Pasternak wants to be recorded in the negative, so let's have a recorded vote. Oh, the voting buttons are not working either? Oh. Okay, they're working now.
Councillor Holland, please. Councillor Robinson, please.
Can you move this for me?
The item carries 31 to 3.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll go to, any more on the left? Okay, we'll go to the right. Councillor DiCiano on page 2.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First item, EY 12.1. I have a motion to move a supplementary report on that item, if we can do that.
Does staff have the motion?
They do?
It's theirs.
It's their
This
motion.
is on page 2, EY 12.1.
Yes, and it's 12.1A that you're moving, right, as well.
12.1.
Now.
All in favor?
What, is it on the screen?
It is.
Yes.
Okay, because my screen is not working. I don't,
Our button's your screen.
I have a blank screen here.
I have a blank button.
Oh, thanks.
Where's 12.8?
Okay.
12.1.
So the supplementary, that's what
Okay, I see it now. The amendment is on the screen. All in favor of the amendment? Opposed, if any, carried. Clause is amended. All in favor? Opposed, if any, carried. Any more on the right side? Okay, Councillor Holliday.
Thank you, Speaker. Similar to Councillor Pasternak, there are a couple of trees I'd like the opportunity to vote in the negative, and
Okay, which item?
those are items EY 12.10 and NY 12.8.
And 12.8. So you want a recorded vote on those two, right? Right?
Thank you.
Okay. So on page 2, EY 12.8, recorded vote. 12.8 and 12.10. He's doing both. 12.8, recorded vote. Okay, hold on. We are dealing with EY 12.8, application to remove a city tree at 22 Edinburgh Hill. It wasn't 12.8? Okay, sorry. No. Okay, Councillor Holliday, please, it was my understanding that you wanted a recorded vote on 12.8 and 12.2.
For clarification, Speaker, EY 12.10 and NY 12.8.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, on 12.10, recorded vote. This is to remove a private tree at 768 Windermere Avenue. After, I'll call you. I'll call you.
Councillor Layton, please, and Councillor Wong Tam. Councillor Karygiannis, please.
When you're seated, Councillor Fillion, thank you.
Item EY 12.10 carries 34 to 3.
Now we're going to be voting on NY 12.8. Okay, recorded vote. Is it? Okay. Okay, so all the buttons are working now, so you can put your name on the screen.
Councillor Holland, please.
Item NY 12.8 carries 33 to 4.
Okay, so we're going to, Councillor Holliday, I held down, I held down EY 12.13. I have an amendment by the city solicitors. Could you move that on my behalf?
I am pleased to move that for you.
Okay, just a sec. Okay, Councillor Holliday?
I'm pleased to move the amendment, as we can
Okay.
see on the screen, to EY 12.13.
So this is on page 2, EY 12.13, 29 Church Street. There is an amendment that I've asked Councillor Holliday to move on by my behalf, on behalf of the solicitor. All in favor? Recorded.
It's fine.
Why are we recording?
Oh, if you only knew the story on this one.
Councillor Matlow, please, and Councillor Davis. Councillor Cho, please.
The amendment carries unanimously 37 in favor.
Clause is amended. Opposed, if any, carried. So we're going to continue on the... Councillor Moser?
I hit the wrong button on 12.8. I don't think we need a revote, but I did hit the no button. I thought I hit the yes button. So I just want to make that known.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay, so the buttons are now working, Councillor Campbell. Okay, I'll take your hand. Okay, Councillor Campbell?
Thank you. This is on page 2. I just would like to, I have a motion on EY 12.8 to refer it back to the Etobicoke York Community Council so that the applicant can make a deputation to the council. No, we voted on NY.
That was NY. Okay, so we, on page 2, EY 12.8, Councillor Campbell is, there's the motion on the screen. He's to refer it back to Etobicoke York Community Council for further consideration. All in favor? Recorded vote.
Councillor Wong-Tam, please. Councillor Davis. Councillor Ajamari, please.
Councillor Cressy, Councillor Mihevik, Councillor Crawford, please. Councillor Burnside, Councillor Fletcher. Councillor Cole, please. Councillor Cole. Councillor Cole.
The motion to refer back carries 35 to 3.
Okay, are there any more on page 2? Yeah. Okay, we can use the buttons now. Any more on page 2? Okay, so we'll go to page 3. Councillor Holliday, page 3.
Thank you, Speaker. NY 12.16, I would request a recorded vote, so I may vote in the negative. Would you like to hold it down?
No.
I can hold it down if you want.
No.
No.
So on page 3, Councillor Holliday has asked that we vote on NY 12.16. He wants to be recorded in the negative. Recorded vote.
Councillor Kelly, please. Councillor Karygiannis, Councillor Carroll. Councillor Mathlow, please. Oh, he's... Councillor DeGiorgio, when you're seated, please.
The item carries 35 to 3.
Okay, are there any more on page 3? Councillor Shiner, page 3.
Yes, ma'am, I'm no longer interested in holding 12.36.
Okay, so on page 3, Councillor Shiner is releasing NY 12.36. Recorded vote.
Councillor Kelly, please. Councillor Karygiannis, Councillor Perks.
Councillor Mamalidi, please.
Item NY 12.38 carries unanimously, 38 in favor.
12.36. It was 36, right, that we voted on? Okay. Councillor Robinson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd like to hold NY 12.33 on page 3. 12.33, final report for 2437 Bayview Avenue.
Okay, thank you. Are there any more on page 3? Okay, let's go to page 4. Councillor Cressy.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. On 2 items. First, on TE 14.8, I'm happy to move the recommendations in the supplementary report and then release it. TE 14.8, inclusion on the City of Toronto's Heritage Register and intention to designate.
Okay.
There are recommendations in the supplementary report that I'm happy to move.
Okay, so it's on the screen. On page 4, T 14.8, Councillor Cressy is moving the supplementary report, T 14.8B. All in favor? Recorded.
Councillor McMahon, please. Councillor Cho, I should say, please. Deputy Mayor Minnan-Wong, and Councillor Pasternak, if you're on the floor, please.
Councillor Mamalidi, please.
The motion carries unanimously, 38 in favor.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Wong Tam? Oh, sorry. On the item as amended, all in favor? Opposed, if any, carried. Councillor Cressy, you have another?
Yes, Madam Chair. TE 14.9, inclusion on the City of Toronto's Heritage Registry, 158 Pearl Street. I have a motion to defer this to the June council meeting. I've had conversations with Heritage Preservation Services staff, and they'd like time to review it a little further.
Okay. That's on page 4, the bottom of the page, T 14.9. All in favor? Opposed, if any, carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Wong Tam?
Yes, thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Page 4, TE 14.4. The staff have now circulated the supplementary report, which I also believe was forwarded to councillors' offices, and I'd like to move the recommendations in the staff report and the supplementary report.
Okay, Councillor Thompson has asked it be held down.
Okay, then I'll hold it, Madam Speaker.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any more on page 4? Okay. Page 5. Page 5. Page 6. Okay, Councillor Fletcher on page 5. Okay, just a sec. On page 5, yes?
TE 14.4.
I can't hear you. I'm sorry.
Sorry, TE 14.4. On page 5.
Oh, that's already been held. That's on page 4.
I'm sorry, I'm on page 5.
Yeah, so what do you want to hold on page 5?
TE
Yeah?
14.14. I missed the 1.
Oh, okay.
My apologies. I'm just with the program here. It's a bit blocky this morning.
Okay. Councillor Fillion on page 5.
Sorry, page 6.
Oh. Okay, on page 6.
Go to page 6.
Page 6, CC 15.2, I'll release and move the confidential attachment.
Okay, so on page 6, Councillor Fillion is releasing CC 15.2 and the confidential report. On favor? Opposed, if any, carried. Thank you. Councillor Bylaw?
Yes, Madam Speaker, TE 14.60, I do have a motion. So I can do a quick release. I hold it and do a quick.
Does the staff have it?
Yep, right here.
Okay, there it is. Okay, this is on page 6, T 14.60. The amendment's on the screen. All in favor? Opposed, if any, carried.
Why?
Item as, oh, okay.
It's because we're changing the direction of the street.
Councillor Layton.
Yes, thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I have 2 items on page 6. The first is TE 14.72, endorsement of events for liquor licensing purposes. I'd like to move the amendment. Oh, we don't have it yet? Well, you can sit on it.
Okay, yeah, he's
Hold it.
holding it.
I'll hold- keep-
Why don't you
continue to hold that?
continue holding it
Sure.
because
My
they're not
s-
ready?
Perfect. My second item is CC 15.3, DuPont Study Area, I have a motion to this item that's requesting a deferral
Okay.
until the next council meeting. Councillor Cressy. No. This has been worked out with the city's legal staff that are currently at the board, that we've requested a bit of time to discuss the settlement offer with the community.
Okay, so on page 6, CC 15.
Sorry, there's a second half to this motion that I want to make sure I sent it in last night. It doesn't need to be moved. Well then. Perfect. Thank you very much. Our solicitor was being our solicitor on the file was being overly cautious, and that's fine. She's our solicitor.
Okay, so on your motion, you're deferring, and that's only part of it. So all in favor? Opposed? Recorded.
Is that?
Councillor Mihevc, Councillor Filion, please.
Councillor Perruzza, when you're seated, please. Councillor Mallow, Councillor Lee. Councillor Perks, please.
Councillor Mihevc, please.
Councillor Karagianis, please.
Councillor Mamalidi, please.
Councillor Carroll, are you on the floor?
Councillor Mamalidi, please.
The motion to defer recommendations 1 and 2 carries unanimously, 39 in favor.
Okay, now on the remainder, on favor, recorded vote. Yes, I know. We're still voting on Councillor Layton's motion. Yeah. Yes, recorded vote.
Councillor DiCiano, please. Councillor Filion, please.
Councillor Bailao, please. Councillor Wong Tam, Councillor DeGiorgio, Councillor Perruzza.
Councillor Holland, please.
Councillor DeGiorgio, please.
The item as amended carries unanimously, 38 in favor.
Councillor Pasternak.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Page 6, CC 15.4, I'd like to declare an interest in that item as there's a dispute, a legal dispute regarding a branch of the Toronto Public Library, as my spouse works for Toronto Public Library.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Wong Tam, page 6.
Sorry, Madam Speaker, I'm hoping to go back to page 4. It's TE 14.4. I think it's okay for me to release it and move the recommendations in the supplementary report that's been advance circulated.
Well, Councillor Thompson is... Oh, you're good? Okay. So, Councillor Wong Tam, you're releasing it then?
Yes, Madam Speaker.
With the supplementary report?
Yes, and to move both items together.
Okay, we'll put it on the screen. Okay, just one sec. Councillor Campbell, hold on. Yes?
Question of staff.
Okay, so we'll have to continue holding it.
Oh.
All right. Are there any requests to make an item urgent and time specific? I guess not. Yeah, I know. Okay. Who? Okay, we're going to have a separate vote on CC 15.4 to allow Councillor Karygiannis to, and Councillor Pasternak. Recorded vote.
Councillor Wong-Tam, please. Councillor Carmichael Greb. Councillor Davis. Councillor Thompson, when you're seated, please.
Councillor Crawford, please. Councillor Mihevik.
Item CC 15.4 carries unanimously, 37 in favor.
Thank you. Councillor Ainsley.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm asking Council to consider the following motion. On February 22nd, 2016, the Government Management Committee considered item GM 10.19, had an expropriation of the storm sewer easement at 34 Plimbridge Crescent. It was deemed urgent in accordance with Section 27-60 of Chapter 27, Council Procedures, item GM 10.19. I'm asking for it to be removed from the jurisdiction of the Government Management Committee and brought forward for consideration by City Council at the March 10th, 2016 meeting. The reason I'm asking for this is it's outside the statutory time frame for consideration by the next City Council meeting. So this needs to be considered today.
Okay, thank you.
Otherwise, if we wait until the next City Council meeting, staff have to start the expropriation process all over again.
Thank you. On favor?
I'd like a recorded vote because this impacts my resident.
Sure.
And I'd like to vote in the negative because they're very upset about this easement.
Okay, thank you. So on favor, recorded vote. Yes. So we're voting on removing it from committee. And then once we vote on this, then the item will be circulated to members of council.
Councillor Perruzza, please. Councillor DeGiorgio. Councillor McMahon, please. Councillor Wong-Tam, please. Councillor Pasternak.
Councillor Cole, please.
The motion to remove from committee carries 30-8.
Okay, all those in favor of adopting the order paper and all items not held. All in favor? Recorded.
Councillor Perruzza, please. Councillor McMahon. Councillor Layton, please. Deputy Mayor, please.
We're voting on the order paper.
Deputy Mayor Minnan-Wong, please, your vote.
The
The motion to adopt the order paper carries unanimously, 38 in favor.
Okay, members of council, I want to stress the importance of preparing your motions in advance. The clerk staff are here to help you prepare your motions. In particular, if you intend to move a motion during the release of holds, I will insist that your motion be prepared in advance and given to the clerk. If you do not have your motion ready, I will not recognize you. I'm also reminding members that you must state your motion first before you speak to it. Councillor Mammoliti, you would like to make an announcement?
Sometimes, I don't know what's happening in the chamber today, but sometimes you need a dose of Councillor Mammoliti to liven things up a little bit. I've got a delegation here today. So I'd like to, and it gives me great pleasure to introduce a delegation from Ghana. There are a group of professionals, Madam Speaker, that are here to explore opportunities around solar energy, to learn and explore how the City of Toronto does that as well. And it's my pleasure to introduce them. They're behind me. Please give them a warm welcome for being here. Thank you. You'll be pleased to know this is probably the only time I'm going to stand up in this council meeting. So.
Are you referring to for just today?
No, I think he's in the term. Depends on how you treat me.
Okay, thank you. So we'll go through the agenda. So we'll start with page 3, NY 12.33, final report zoning amendment application for 2437 Bayview. Councillor Robinson, you held the item down. Do we have questions to staff?
Yes, I do indeed.
Okay.
So I have questions for planners and transportation staff on this file. The proposed lot coverage was proposed at 58%. What did planners approve and what is the bylaw?
Through the chair, the bylaw is 25%.
The bylaw is 25%. The lot coverage proposed by the applicant was 58%. What did you approve?
The recommendation before you today through the chair is 38% lot coverage.
So I have had public meetings and emails asking why the planners approved 38 when the bylaw is 25%.
Through the chair, what's been approved is at the lower end of what is being approved in the area currently. The townhouse approvals in the area are between 38% and 43% lot coverage.
38. So in the area, normal course is 35 to 38. Is that what you're saying? Sorry, I missed the numbers.
Through the chair, 38 through 43 that's the range within the current approvals.
Did you ask for any modifications? I know there was a terrace at the back that's no longer there that will increase screen space and shrunk the overall footprint. Is there any modifications you asked the applicant to make?
Through the chair, we requested for the lot coverage to be lowered. The original proposal was approximately 50% lot coverage. There was a large terrace that was proposed as part of the proposal that has been significantly reduced.
Okay, thank you very much. My next questions are for the transportation staff. There's limited parking at this space, which has caused a lot of angst in the community and the local neighbors. Can you explain why you approved so few parking spots?
Through the chair, when we looked at this site in comparison to other comparable houses of worship in the area, the amount that was being proposed was fairly comparable, and staff thought it would be reasonable to provide that. Again, you have sort of infrequent uses in terms of services, typically once or twice a week.
So this is a very, very, I would call it a successful place of worship in that it's very active, very engaged, very impressive organization. On Bayview Avenue, where there's limited transit. So my concern is just looking into the future, and I share the concerns of the neighborhood. Is 16 parking spots sufficient for a very engaged, active congregation?
For day-to-day activities, our staff believe that it is. The synagogue also has an agreement with the Canadian, if I get this right, the Canadian Film Institute for the provision of additional 33 spaces that could be used by members of the congregation during the times of worship.
So you don't feel that there'll be any impact on Bayview Avenue, that there won't be backups? As you know, Bayview Avenue, you've been out for a public meeting on Bayview Avenue. It's more of a parking lot than a road. It's so congested and so much gridlock, limited transit. You don't believe there's going to be any, as a result of this application being approved and the number of parking spots that you've approved, which is, it does sound limited, that there's not going to be any impact on Bayview Avenue?
On a day-to-day basis, we believe the impacts will be minimal. We will not say that there'll be no impacts, but again, for the day-to-day provisions of on-site daycare, staff believe that the current proposal, the circular driveway, would be able to adequately serve the folks that use the facility.
Okay, and on the Canadian Film Centre agreement, is this an agreement? Is this a requirement? Is it confirmed that they have access to the CFC's parking spots on an ongoing basis?
Yes, there was a letter of understanding. We cannot mandate that they have a written agreement in place. But ultimately, again, Councillor, we will monitor the situation, and based on the concerns of the residents on Bridle Path, we've already committed to the fact that if we start seeing spillover effects with parking on the Bridle Path, we can take action such as putting no parking or no stopping on that road.
So the letter of understanding suffices, in your opinion, with the Canadian Film Centre?
Yes. Again, there's no necessarily guarantee that agreement would be in place in perpetuity, but for the time being, we think it's a reasonable approach to take.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. And I understand that you and your team will work with not only the applicant but also the local neighborhood, as you just indicated, on any congestion, gridlock, or parking issues that are a result of this application coming to fruition.
Absolutely. Again, we can never predict exactly what's going to happen, but our staff have agreed to monitor the situation and will take action accordingly to try to mitigate the impacts.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any further questions on this item? So we'll go to speakers. Councillor Robinson to speak.
Yes, thank you very much, Madam Chair. I have several motions I'd like to put forward before Council to amend what we approved at North York Community Council last week. Unfortunately, with this application, residents felt they weren't notified, and they really didn't turn on to this application until the very end, even though there was, according to Michelle Cochran, the planner, she does confirm that notification went out for not just the public meeting, which I expanded the notification area on, but also prior to the North York Community Council meeting. She has confirmed indeed that notification was sent to the expanded area for this application. And unfortunately, residents in the area are very concerned about not just the footprint, but also more so the parking, congestion, and gridlock in the Bayview Avenue area. They have trouble getting off their street onto Bayview Avenue, and they feel that the parking that's been proposed by transportation is not sufficient. The Canadian Film Centre has come to the table to assist by providing, which, as most of you know, we own the Canadian Film Centre. That is city property. And so residents are very worried that agreement of those additional overflow spots at the Canadian Film Centre will be revoked at some point. But given that it's City of Toronto property, I highly doubt the city's ever going to sell the Canadian Film Centre, which was donated by a very cherished family in the Don Mills area many years ago. So I'm putting forward these motions to provide a level of comfort for the immediate residents who feel very late to the process because they're very concerned about the impacts on their neighborhood. For those of you who are on North York Community Council with me, you know very well Bayview Avenue is transforming. There's been 15 to 18 applications on Bayview Avenue between Lawrence Avenue and basically 401. So it's a lot of intensification over a very short period of time. So I hope you'll support these amendments that I'm putting forward, again, to give the residents a sense of comfort. Stephen Buckley has referred to some of these, but basically we want to ensure that the traffic flow, the parking, are all in place and all reviewed as we go through the process of construction and following construction when the institution is actually in place and running. We want to make sure there's safety nets in place for the immediate residents because they're very, very concerned about this. And so I will leave it at that unless you want me to run through the motions, but they're, I think they're very specific to the application, and they've been vetted by city planning, they've been vetted by city transportation, they've been vetted by the city legal team, and the applicant has also reviewed them. And so I hope very much the council will support the neighborhood by supporting these amendments before you, again, to give the neighbors a bit of comfort in something that's been very difficult for them.
Thank you. Councillor Pasternak has a question for you. 3 minutes.
I don't have the motions in front of me. I took a quick glance as they were scrolling across the screen, but was there not a public meeting, a statutory meeting on February the 23rd, 2016? And did that not meet all the requirements of public consultation?
Yes, but what we've heard, so since the North York Community Council meeting a week ago, I've had 3 meetings with the immediate residents, and their perspective is they weren't notified for either the public meeting or the statutory public meeting. So the first I heard of this was actually when a lawyer came to North York Community Council and identified there was opposition. That was the very first time, which was written up in the paper. That was my reaction to that.
Now, usually when a new application comes on a site, there's signage. The signage is actually quite large with the name of the planner and a phone number. In my area, the signs go up a good year before we see anything before council. These neighbors who supposedly live right beside this, wouldn't they have been able to see the signage and be able to call your office or the city planner on the file and get all their questions answered?
So that's an excellent question, and I did ask the neighbors about that, and I asked Michelle Corcoran, who is the lead planner on this file, who wrote the report, that very question, and she did indicate there was signage in place at least a year on the front of the site.
Would you agree with the saying that we can take people to water, but we can't get them to drink? I mean, how much more can we do other than circulating a notice, having a statutory meeting that I'm sure was well publicized, and having signage on a lot that people are driving by every day?
Well, there's a lot of angst and tension on Bayview Avenue because of the level of development. There's a lot of vacant lots coming up for sale. There's developers and builders battling over lots. Nobody wants to break up a potential, basically package of lots that could be transformed into lovely townhomes. No sarcasm intended. So I guess there's a lot going on Bayview Avenue, and I think unfortunately the residents were really not aware of this till the tail end, and maybe they were, basically led to the water from maybe some of the builders and developers on Bayview Avenue.
You mentioned the parking issue. You're aware that the peak is really just on the highest use day of this facility would be on a day when people don't drive. Would be the Sabbath, so they wouldn't be driving on the day where the most number of people are in this building.
That was your last question.
Yeah, I am aware of that, and I think that weighed in to some degree to transportation's decision on the number of parking spots allocated.
Okay, thank you. Are there any further speakers on this item? Okay, so we have the motion on the screen. All in favor?
Oh, I'd like a recorded vote. Sorry.
Recorded vote. Oh, okay, sorry. Councillor Pasternak put his name up to speak. Okay, Councillor Pasternak to speak.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you for the cheering crowd to my right. I would simply say that dragging this application out any further is really unnecessary. It's a misuse of staff time. A statutory public meeting was held. The signage was up for some times. People in the neighborhood would have been fully aware of this application and submitted all their questions and queries to the appropriate city staff or the local councillor. This is what I would describe as an important investment in social capital. We desperately need daycare spots, and this is soft use when it comes to a place of worship. We rely heavily on our faith communities to deliver out of the coal programs, food banks, guidance, and we praise them repeatedly in this chamber when it suits our purposes. So when they come to us and they are asking something from us, I think it is incumbent on us to recognize the key role that social capital plays in this city and the religious communities. It's a modest application on a site. It, as the chief planner said, it conforms with various precedents set in the area, and they'd like to get onto it. So I would recommend that we vote against the amendments and we approve the application.
Thank you. Councillor Carroll to speak.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to applaud the local councillor for bringing forward these amendments, and I want to indicate that I have both sympathy and empathy for the necessity of the amendments that are before you now. Sometimes you can work for as long as you like. You can work for years and years on an application, and you can think that that you have everything in hand. You can think that you've done your best planning work ever. And the reason we have a community council, is that is a statutory meeting about that development. And it requires statutory notice. And so there are occasions when people come forward because at last here's a statutory notice they paid heed to and they have real concerns. And that's what we heard in community council. And I sit beside the local councillor, so I can tell you she had great empathy for what she was hearing. She wanted to change it, but she was shocked to see them. But that's the very reason a community council is statutory notice required, so that we can take that last chance for the community to speak up. They did. These amendments address their concerns, and so I applaud at this last minute the local councillor being able to address them in the way that she has. This really is the best way to do the best we can with this site, taking all of those things into account. So I'll be supporting the amendments, and great work on the part of the councillor and the planning department.
Thank you. Okay, on the amendment, recorded vote.
Councillor Mihevc, please. Councillor Cole.
Councillor Kelly. Members, we cancel the previous votes. Your lights may be lit up in error. Would you please make sure you press the button? Councillor Lee, please. Councillor Matlow.
Councillor Mamalidi, please.
Yep.
The amendment carries 32-3.
Okay. Item is amended. All in favor? Opposed, if any, carried. So our next item is that Councillor Carroll held down, but she's asking that we hold it down because she's waiting for staff to prepare a report. So we'll go to page 4, T 14.4, which is Councillor Wong Tam on the Historic Yonge Street Heritage Conservation District. Now, I believe that Councillor Wong Tam wanted to release it, but Councillor Campbell, you had questions, right? to staff. Okay, questions to staff?
Question to staff, to the chief planner. There are 13 heritage designations in this agenda today. In particular, this one recognizes quite a number of properties that are being designated for heritage designation. Just would like to know, what was the consultation process and with the public and the building owners?
Through the chair, there was an extensive public consultation process as per the process that we've established for HCDs. We're undertaking 5 at this point in time. There is a process with the community where the heritage conservation boundaries are introduced and established. There are then further community meetings to review the buildings that are contributing and not contributing. There's consultations that relate to identifying the character areas in the HCD, and all of the landowners within the HCD are contacted through registered mail to participate in that process.
So in this particular case, with this slew of buildings on Yonge Street, what was the consensus, or what was the feedback received from the building owners?
Through the chair, this was an exceptional process, in part because there was such a high level of consensus and support for the HCD by the landowners in the area.
And what is the, with respect to the Yonge Street buildings, what's the age and general condition of the buildings and the historical significance of these buildings?
To the subway. The significance, through the chair, the significance begins in the 1850s right up to the 1970s. There are a whole variety of different buildings within that time frame. As you can appreciate, it spans a very long time frame. And the buildings that are identified as contributing are identified as contributing for different reasons along the corridor. But of course, this was Toronto's first Main Street, historic Main Street, which is the overarching character of the HCD.
So are some of these buildings that we're protecting or we're linking historical significance to, or heritage designation, were some of these buildings built in the last 30, like say 40 or 50 years?
Through the chair, the threshold for us in the context of an HCD is a 40-year period, and there are buildings, I stand corrected, from the 1850s to 1950 when the subway was in fact built.
So none of these buildings are less than, say, 70 years old?
Through the chair, 60 years old.
60 years old. Okay. No further questions. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Kelly.
Thank you, Speaker. To the Chief Planner, Build has sent a letter through McCarthy Tetro. They raise a number of points. One of them, the simplest one, at least for as a layperson to understand, is on page 2, where Build argues that what has been proposed, quote, governs matters which extend beyond the conservation of cultural heritage.
Through the chair, it's my understanding that as a result of a sustainability guideline released by the federal government, that we are going to have to integrate that into the Heritage Conservation District when it gets approved. So the issue here really has to do with more stringent federal guidelines.
Second question, based on this communication, is one of linkages to Official Plan Amendment 183. I'm not quite sure how this concept of linkages works.
Through the chair, we're on the board. We're at the Ontario Municipal Board currently on 183, and the solicitor who is working on this HCD is also working on that file, and will be resolving them in conjunction one with the other.
And finally, Speaker, in the bottom paragraph on page 1, Bild argues that the plan is, quote, neither structured nor worded in a manner which would provide for it to operate appropriately in the role it would have if approved as a matter of law. Now, is that fairly lobbed in your direction, or should it be to the city solicitor?
Through the chair, I can speak to that matter. Quite frankly, I think this is typical bluster from the development industry when we bring in stronger guidelines. We are a relatively unregulated city to our own detriment. When we bring in a heritage conservation district, we are in fact bringing in stronger guidelines to manage change and growth to be inconsistent with a series of council policies. The structure of the document is consistent with existing successful heritage conservation districts that exist in the City of Toronto.
Would it be fair, and I don't mean to be corny, to call the work that you're doing with respect to the designation of heritage districts a pioneering effort?
Through the chair, I have no issue with you being corny. In fact, the work that we're doing is leading edge work that is in fact putting the regulatory frameworks that we require in our city in place. We are in a high growth scenario, and there is a critical demand to ensure that as we continue to see sustained growth in the city, that we put policies in place that protect our heritage infrastructure and cultural infrastructure such that the legacy we leave is retained in the built fabric of this city.
Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you. If I can ask members of council, if we can please try to keep it down. It's getting a little bit noisy. Thank you. Councillor Moser. Questions?
Could I, thank you. I'm pleased to see these amendments coming forward. I'd like to know what the implications are at this particular point. Not sure if staff is listening at this particular point.
Through the chair, in order to strengthen the HCD, we have brought forward a list of heritage buildings to add to the Heritage Register. This will strengthen the HCD.
As part of this, have there been any applications on any of these addresses in the past couple of years?
Through the chair, it's not my understanding that there are any applications on these specifically. However, it's important to know that there have been some significant proposals along Yonge Street over the past 5 years, and heritage has been integrated in all of those proposals into the review of the development application. And in fact, we've had considerable success in retaining the heritage attributes along this corridor over the past 5 years.
Do we have to have this done in a certain time frame? I know the Heritage Act, we have to be reasonable as far as when we're assessing this. Are there any time limits when we do these to be fair to all sides of the of this process?
Through the chair, a year ago, you will recall that City Council approved a bylaw for us to proceed with this study area. That bylaw is now expiring, so there is in fact an urgency to move forward and implement the HCD at this time.
How far are we into the study? When do you think the completion date would be?
Through the chair, the document you have before you today is the final HCD, so it is complete. We've worked aggressively over the past 12 months to get to this point today.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I know. Members of council, if I can have members of council please take their seats. It's very noisy.
No kidding.
Councillor DiCiano, Councillor Mammoliti, Councillor Cressy, Councillor Cole, please. Councillor McConnell, questions?
One simple question. Thank you, Madam Speaker, to the Chief Planner. We have put in, you talked about stronger guidelines for the HCDs. Is this any different than the stronger guidelines? Aren't they the same as we just put in and approved by Council on the Old Town in the St. Lawrence neighborhood?
Through the chair, we have a template which outlines an approach to delivering the HCD so that we're not reinventing the wheel in terms of the study process approach that we take. But the guidelines are, of course, different and specific to every heritage area.
But it isn't any different than what Council has just approved for an adjacent area with the same type of mixed use and commercial community in the Old Town in St. Lawrence.
Through the chair, that's absolutely correct.
Thank you very much.
To speak, Councillor Wong Tam.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I ask that Council adopt the recommendations in the original report plus the supplementary report. There has been a lot of ongoing work that has taken place on Yonge Street, especially this historic section of Yonge Street. We all know Yonge Street to be the longest street in the world. We also know Yonge Street to be Toronto's main street, and I would argue that it's probably the most famous street in Canada. And there's a lot of good reason for that. Yonge Street has been a place of extraordinary historical significance because of the introduction of the subway line, which comes right down that spine. It's also been the place of community celebration, whether it's the end of a war or perhaps a moment of civil unrest when we've had something of importance to say about a social justice movement. It's also been the place of tremendous, tremendous community pride, whether it's hosting Busker Fest or perhaps Pride parade celebrations, which are one of the largest on the planet. Yonge Street has been the host to all those Toronto events. And so when we talk about the heritage of Yonge Street, we also need to pay attention to the cultural significance that Yonge Street plays in the heart of this city. And so as much as I think that there have been a very broad consultative process that began almost 5 years ago in early conversations that took us back even almost 6 or 7 years, even earlier than that, about how to ensure that the cultural value and the physical value of the heritage properties that contribute to this historical significance of Yonge Street is captured. This is the document that does that. And in no way are we actually sterilizing development. It doesn't happen that way. And we can see this in terms of the vibrancy of Queen West or the St. Lawrence Market or any other commercially viable neighborhood that has an HCD that guides the planning and land use development. All it does is do that. It gives property owners greater certainty of what they can and cannot do. It also allows us to weave through that urban environment a clearer vision of how we want to demonstrate to ourselves as residents and citizens of the city of what kind of pride we take in our heritage attributes that are lining the street, but also how do we actually work with property owners, give them the financial tools and incentive to do more with their property, which is something that they currently don't have now. This is also an area of Yonge Street that doesn't currently have a business improvement association in area. And it's not because you don't have good property owners. They just haven't been able to self-organize for a whole host of reasons. So not only do you have one of the busiest subway stations running underneath Yonge Street in North American context and North American numbers, you juxtapose this by having the busiest pedestrian street in North America, one of the busiest pedestrian streets. And you have an HCD now that will put this all together and guide this moving forward. There's no reason why property owners on Yonge Street can't be commercially viable. And if you think that we are not allowing development on Yonge Street. I think we have over 30 applications on Yonge Street from Eglinton going down to the waterfront. There's a lot of movement on Yonge Street. And this particular section of Yonge Street is actually very interesting because almost every single significant block is under development, including some of the properties that are listed. We have now an opportunity to lead the conversation when it comes to heritage restoration. 5 St. Joseph, as an example, is one of the most spectacular development applications that we have on Yonge Street. The tower that rises behind the heritage property is extraordinarily designed. There's a beautiful installation of public art, and all the buildings are properly restored. And they will be housing prominent retailers. That's the Yonge Street of the future that will come to this neighborhood. And that is the example of one developer working with the community to ensure that the heritage values in the property that he owns is going to be properly protected and invested in. And he did this. His name is Gary Switzer of Mod Development, and he did this even before the HCD came into place. So we have an example of private property owners doing well with their properties, and there's no reason now that if we officialize and regulate the HCD and pass it as a bylaw, that we can't have even more of the same coming up and down the street. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, on the amendment. All in favor? Recorded vote.
Members, the voting panel is now open. Councillor Perruzza, please. Councillor Kelly, please. Councillor Ashamari, please.
The amendment carries 34 to 1.
Clause is amended. All in favor? Recorded vote.
Councillor DiGiorgio, please, and Councillor McMahon. Councillor Carmichael Greb, please.
Councillor Cressy, Councillor Mihevc, please.
Councillor Carmichael Greb, please.
The item as amended carries 35 to 1.
Okay, we'll go back to page 3, NY 12.35. Councillor Carroll? Oh, it's not ready? All right. So we'll go to page 5. Councillor Fletcher? Councillor Fletcher?
Don't run, Paula. Take the elevator.
Take your time. Okay, while we're waiting for Councillor Fletcher, Councillor Layton, do you want to move the party clause?
Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm happy to move the party clause. There's some amendments here that were additional events that were added. Look at that, tailgate parties, some stuff for Canada Music Week, and some curling, something going on at a curling club and a church. So let the good times roll.
Even at the church?
Oh, in Ward 19, we'll license just about anything.
Okay. On favor of the amendment? Opposed, if any, carried. Clause is amended. On favor? Carried. Okay, so page 5, Councillor Fletcher.
Thank you.
We have T 14.14. You have questions to staff?
No, I just had to say something about the Queen Street East speaker and ask for recorded vote. In particular, drawing attention to what I think council decided a while ago, which was to make, on the advice of the chief planner and staff, to make heritage a much more robust part of the work of the planning department, because there are so many fantastic heritage buildings and heritage neighborhoods in the city of Toronto. And we have moved in that direction. So there are a number of planning applications that then bring to light the nature of the heritage buildings in those neighborhoods, and none more so than Queen Street East, this section of Queen Street between the bridge over the river and the railway bridge, first railway bridge through the east end of Toronto, and that this is just a plethora of heritage buildings, beautiful ones, and through development applications and through the work of our staff in preparing a heritage commercial district, we are now advancing these buildings for designation and others for listing, and everybody is simply over the moon in the East End that we are having the recognition and the protection for this incredible stand of beautiful Toronto heritage, very unique in the city of Toronto. So I'm happy to move this here this morning, and I think we could say this is a bit of a heritage council because we are dealing with so much of our built form heritage here today, and would ask for a recorded vote on 1414, please.
Okay, thank you. On page 5, T 14.14, Councillor Fletcher is released. All in favor, recorded vote.
Councillor Perruzza, please. Councillor Cho, Councillor Carroll, when you're seated, thank you.
Councillor Mihevc, please.
Councillor Pasternak, Councillor Cho.
Councillor DiCiano, please.
Councillor Cho, your vote, please.
The item carries unanimously, 34 in favor.
Councillor Fletcher, on page 5, T 14.37, 11, 17, and 19 Gerrard Street East.
Yes, I do have some questions of the Deputy City Manager,
Okay.
Speaker.
Questions?
This is a United Church that has been the home of the Parent Resource Center for many years, which is a drop-in, probably the most multicultural drop-in in the whole East End. And this development here, since it's been bought by Woodgreen, they intend to maintain a space there. But really, there needs to be I'm just sorry for the long-winded intro, but while this was a twinkle in somebody's eye, Parent Resources came down in the last term and got the undertaking from the Community Development Recreation Committee that the city would assist in finding space for them during the time of the construction. And I'm wondering if that is still the intention, and there is a motion here today that asks you to do that.
So through you, Madam Speaker, yes, that is our intention. We have the staff and Children's Services working with staff in Parks, Forestry and Recreation to find appropriate temporary relocation space for the centre.
And there's quite a large number of kids here. There's up to 100 kids and parents often at this very popular drop-in.
So we're working hard to try and find an appropriate temporary location. That's correct.
And will you be able to report back on that to CDR as the
we can
progress
report
is
back.
maintained? Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so Councillor Fletcher, there's nobody else. Do you just want to release it?
No, I'll just say a few things about
Okay.
that, because I did put motions at Community Council that indicated that parent resources should be in the planning report, and unfortunately it wasn't there. The Wood Green has told me that they have signed an MOU with Parent Resources, and one of the reasons why this church became a cause célèbre and we saved the church, and we now have 36 RGI units going in there, Wood Green building that, putting in Parent Resources, and that the United Church agreed to basically partner with the community in Wood Green on this, was because of Parent Resources and the importance of it. So I was a little surprised that that wasn't mentioned in the planning report, and I'll leave the motion still as it stands, because I think that needs to be acknowledged through planning, that this is the intent of this application. Of course, if something happens to Parent Resources, Wood Green will still have a community space there, but the full intention of this rebuild and the housing and the community space is to provide seniors housing and to provide the Parent Resources with a new home in an upgraded space. So just like to make sure that everything that we've been working on, I think we've been on it now for, I guess maybe 5 years. So those who have mentioned how long it takes to get developments moving and get them where you want to have them, they're absolutely right. So for 5 years, putting this package together, and it's here, I want to make sure we don't drop any threads on this package for Parent Resource Center, which was the impetus to bring everybody together in the first place. And really do have to pay tribute to the United Church on Gerrard Street, the Riverdale United Church, and that they foresaw the importance of leaving behind something important in the community. I'll say, and I've said it before, that many of our really important community resources in the old city of Toronto, I can't speak about other parts of our city, have churches that have really significant community use in those churches. Sometimes they're drop-in centers. On the Danforth, St. Barnabas Church has probably one of the busiest childcare centers. It is there. Children's Circle, there are over 100 spaces there. What happens to these churches as things are shifting? So a year or so ago, Mr. Brillinger and his team were able to make a list of those particular churches where we have, I'll call them social purpose uses. And I feel very strongly that that's how these services have been delivered in parts of the city, and we need to partner with the churches. We need to partner in a way that maintains services in communities when life is changing for certain denominations. And that's why I'm really paying tribute to the United Church here, that became a partner. I worked with Wood Green on a sale, and Wood Green is coming in with a great development and to maintain a really important drop-in, which I don't have pictures, but I will bring them the next time. It's just fantastic what goes on there every single day. So thank you very much. I'll ask for a recorded vote on this as well, Madam Speaker.
Okay, on the item, recorded vote.
Councillor Perruzza, please. Councillor DiGiorgio. Councillor Shiner, please.
Councillor Fragedakis, please.
The item carries unanimously, 39 in favor.
So I believe that Councillor Carroll's item is not ready yet, so we only have 2 items left. So Councillor Ainsley, your item that we brought forward, we voted on earlier, GM 10.19 from Government Management on the expropriation of storm sewer easement. Do we have questions to staff? Do you need to go on camera?
I don't think I need to go on camera, but I don't know if there's staff here from facilities and real estate to answer questions.
Well, we're at the item.
So I don't know which staff are here to answer questions about it. Staff were the ones. It's staff that brought this forward to me, Madam Speaker, saying that it had to be dealt with.
Can somebody call staff and have them come down?
So I don't know which staff.
I don't know either.
It's facilities and real estate, so I would expect real estate staff.
Okay, so I believe that Councillor Carroll is ready, so why don't we hold your item down, wait for staff, and
Sure.
Councillor Carroll, on page 3, NY 12.35. So do we have any questions to staff? Any questions to staff? No? Okay, to speak, Councillor Carroll?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I have 2 motions. One worked out to alleviate concerns that were raised at Community Council, and another is highly technical in nature. This one is, well, it's rather long. What this is, in a 106-page social housing revitalization report, these are all of the legal review wording changes. What I've asked is that if you'll note the underlining are the things we always look for. I'm going to consider it read because they're so long, but they are the things that speak to Section 37 should be paid before such and such. The rental replacement, the demolition and rental replacement has to happen before you go above ground on market. They are the conventional and classic things. The wording needed to be cleaned up somewhat, and there was not time to do that until now. The second motion is a standalone that City Council requests the Director of Affordable Housing Office to work with Toronto Community Housing Corporation staff to provide up to 7 home ownership assistant loans to eligible Toronto Community Housing Corporation residents in the Market Building as part of the Leslie Nymark redevelopment. That one, while it may appear to you to be somewhat general, there is such a program. And while early on, in the 7 years it took to develop this application, that was reviewed and considered not possible, not affordable, it is more affordable now. We do have slightly more resources, and we have more expertise at how we do this. Having done, I believe 30 or 40 of them in Regent Park, et cetera, Alexandra Park is about to receive some. This is unique in a different way. We talk a lot about Alexandra Park, Lawrence Heights, talk about Regent Park. Those are social housing development sites where we have done revitalizations in a partnership between TCHC and a private developer where there is a lot of acreage. I believe Regent Park is 60 acres, 69 acres. 69 acres. Thank you, Councillor McConnell. Lawrence Heights, a lot of acreage with a highway running through the middle of it. 100. Thank you, Councillor Cole. But we have another challenge in the City of Toronto. In our suburbs, particularly north of the 401, we have a lot of TCHC complexes that are 10 or 12 acres, a fifth the size. And we have the same challenge. If revitalization can happen there, we have to explore it. Leslie Nymark and Allenbury Gardens, the other successful one, coincidentally being in my ward, and it's not something unique about me, it's that there are marketable sites with subway stations near them that made them attractive to private partners. But they present an incredible challenge because when TCHC comes to do a social housing revitalization, should this happen in your ward, you will find that the first commitment you have to make to your community is at that moment they are an applicant. They are an applicant like any other in your basket of applications, and they must be treated as if they are a private developer, having to adhere to our official plan, having to have respect for our zoning bylaws. And this zoning bylaw presented a challenge that wasn't immediately recognizable to either TCHC or Tridel. It is very close to a subway, except that there is a line running right through the middle of this site. Half of this site is in the subway intensification zone, half of it is not. And so what we had to do is work out a way that our families who live in Leslie Nymark, we call it the Villaways in Ward 33. Villaways residents right now live in neighborhood zoning. The subway area inside their site is going to be intensified and made marketable. But we had to do all of the conditions we have done. TCHE is making an investment up front on this, $9.5 million, to be able to build underground parking, to be able to mitigate a huge flooding and mold and soil compaction site issue, to remediate that. They're investing up front to help the developer do that, but they are sharing in the profit to recoup that investment. And they are sharing in this partnership to not only rebuild the units, but to vastly improve the way people live on these units, to address the ravine that should be, and never has been, it's been a garbage dump up until now, it should be the best recreation area that a group of families who live in TCHC facilities ever thought of using. That will happen as a result of this development. They should feel that anyone in this neighborhood, including the people on the other side of Leslie Street, feel happy walking right by their front doors and into that ravine. And that will happen as a result of this development. And all of the other things that you're well familiar with now through all of the other social housing revitalization successes we've had, scholarship loans, et cetera, those are types of things that will happen in this development as well on a small site. Going forward, you'll see an application if you have a similar complex like this in your ward, and you should read this 106-page report before you proceed, because it is a template for what to do where you badly need to rebuild those units. You want to find a way to fit some affordability in there as well, but you're constrained by the lack of acreages and all of those other planning anomalies that we deal with so often. I invite you to read the report. So those are my motions, Madam Speaker. I would only add, the one last sentence I would add is, while you may find the affordable housing office motion somewhat general in its nature, 2 weeks from now, when we meet in council, you'll see a corporate action item from TCHC on the agenda of community development and recreation, and that will give you more information on this application, and it will also give you a chance to ask more questions and actually flesh out the affordable housing action that we're taking. Thank you, Madam Speaker, for your indulgence.
Thank you. Councillor Perruzza, I know that you wait, I understand, but Councillor Carroll's the local councillor. She gets the additional time.
He was asking for it, and I appreciate his say. He was asking me to make sure I get that.
Oh, I did. I did. No, you promised you weren't going to say anything for the rest of the day. Okay, we do have questions to you. Councillor Holliday, question 3 minutes, clarification of the motion. Oh, sorry. Hold on. I'll start your time over. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Speaker. Through you to Councillor Carroll, I wonder if you could help me understand some of the rationale behind the second motion. You touched upon it very briefly in your speech. And in particular, you're suggesting we prescribe 7 loans. How did you arrive at the 7 figure?
Well, actually, I'm glad you asked that question, Councillor Holiday. Initially, this is an application that actually began informally in 2009, formally filed in 2011. That's a long time back. And at that time, we reviewed, along with rebuilding social housing units, the ones that already exist, what more can we do? Because as you know, we need several different types of housing. We do need to rebuild our social housing, but we need to offer ways for people to be able to afford to buy housing and afford to rent market housing.
Right.
And so here we are now in a different time, 2016. There are some funds available to explore putting home ownership into the market portion of this site. And so here we are at the last minute finding out there's a small pot of money that could be realized there. And so what Affordable Housing Office does is create the eligibility criteria around it, and TCHC residents living there, if they qualify, remember, many TCHC residents, 55% of them are actually paying close to market value rents right now. They may be people that qualify for a mortgage. We have an assistance program to help them with the down payment.
Help me understand, why are we intervening into the application of this program? So if I understand correctly, I guess anyone could apply to it, and there's eligibility criteria, so why would we direct preference?
Not anyone can apply to it.
Okay.
It's not, you don't say, I found a house, give me some money. In fact, the way the program works, affordable housing comes in and buys the units and creates the affordability around it. So you can only exercise that program once we have designated a unit on which you can exercise it. So this is where you add it to a program or add it to an application as a condition of the approval.
By steering it to this particular project, do we then bump someone somewhere else that may be more eligible based on the criteria?
No, all we're bumping is millionaires who might otherwise buy the program. You'll see another one like this. At Executive yesterday, we approved a program, a great success. This is 7 units. There are 100 units coming at Tippett Road in Councillor Pasternak's ward. This is how the program is meted out.
Thank you. Councillor Davis, clarification of the motion?
Yes, the motion is also talking about the contribution that's going towards capital improvements, and I guess I just wanted to ask, why was there any way that the developer could have added more to the capital costs here, Tridel? Why can't they give more money?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question. This is what I mean about, this has been a real learning curve. To set up the partnership between the private developer and TCHC to do these social housing revitalizations, from the get-go, you're committing that you as TCHC are going to work, your part of the partnership is going to be to work with planning to realize the density that gives Tridel the ability to rebuild, in this case 129 units at their cost. They are doing that here. But the ability to make that back is somewhat constrained for them because the conditions on this site are such that they went from a pro forma that said we can do this if we can build 900 market units and then rebuild the social housing units. But unfortunately, the constraints of the site are such that what we are allowing them to build is 544 market units. And so there have been some changes both to the design and style to raise the value of each unit, but the density had to come down. That's why we started to look at the issue of an upfront investment by TCHC and then a payback through profit sharing. But I will put this before you. As a way of demonstrating their commitment, when the pro forma radically changed.
Speaker, there's just so much noise.
Well, I know. If I can have members of council, please, and please, can we have clarification of the motion?
Yeah, just clarify. As a way of demonstrating that they were committed, even if the profit sharing didn't pan out every last dollar, the private partner early on in this process agreed to pay $1 more per square foot to make the pro forma work both for them and for TCHC.
And there were other structural challenges around building public roadways and so on, I gather from
Too
this
numerous to mention. I'd like to go back in time and do serious harm to the person who built on this site in the way they did in the 60s.
And just finally, it recommends a certain number of units. There might be people who suggest there should have been more affordable housing units. That's also tied to this question of the constraints of the site. Is that
Yes, and
correct?
I think that we should discuss that, Madam Speaker, through you. I would say to Council, that is something that we should discuss when the CDR agenda is before us 2 weeks from now. Because Councillor Fletcher put forward a motion that talks about actually embedding that in policy around social housing revitalization. It is not our policy to require more than the existing units. And Councillor Fletcher made a very good point that there should be language that says that should be our goal at the start of every social housing revitalization.
Thank you. Councillor Shiner, 3 minutes clarification of the motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So the additional motion that was up on the screen is now to, can I have it back up there?
Could we have the staff put the motions on the screen, please?
I need the one, not the one with all the wording, just the one for the affordable housing units.
Okay.
So, Councillor, this is following the meeting that we had with Councillor Barlow, myself, and Sean Gadden of the Affordable Housing Office and the applicant now to provide some affordable housing on the site.
That's right, a meeting we had this morning. I'm pretty sure everyone heard us.
Well, not me. I didn't raise my voice at anyone.
Yes, we're aware of that.
Thank you. So now we're going to have 7 units in the market building. Is that correct?
Yes.
And they will be available to eligible Toronto Community Housing Corporation residents. So anyone that is a resident of TCHC will be able to make an application. And this will fit within our guidelines then for the affordable housing units that we have?
Well, yes, and why the motion is as general as it is, because as you know, we only all met together this morning in a sort of unscheduled fashion. But between now and when we have TCHCs, because really this is a transaction between TCHC, Affordable Housing Office, and Tridel, we could be much more explanatory about the terms to give you even more comfort by the time we're meeting with the corporate action item in our next council session.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Mayor Tory to speak.
Madam Speaker, only to say that I think these are challenging propositions to revitalize communities, and I want to commend all concerned, but in particular the local councillor, Councillor Carroll, for helping to pull together a plan that I think is going to make a positive difference. And I think one thing I've learned in a short time here is that if you're trying to achieve perfection on these things, you're going to be waiting a long time. And I think, like with transit, it's more important that we start to get some of these things done and get them done in the best way we can, as opposed to not doing them. And if you just look at the passage of time here that has transpired, there would be people, I'm sure, out there who live in the area who would believe that it's never going to happen, and they'll be even finding themselves with suspended belief sitting here this morning. And so I just want to say that I hope that we can move forward, and I commend the councillor and everybody else involved, because it takes a whole bunch of people to make one of these kinds of things happen. And I think even as we speak, we're getting more improvements to something that can ultimately be good for the city and certainly better than what we have today. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Councillor Shiner.
I wanted the overhead on as best as you can see it. To my colleagues,
Okay.
sorry for the black and white image. There isn't a colored one, and I'll speak to that in a moment. The first and most important issue, so could I have, because I'll lose my train of thought, and I appreciate it. On today's agenda, if my numbers are right, there's 1,834 new units being approved in the City of Toronto, and there's no affordable housing units. There's $100,000, if I'm correct, towards affordable housing in one application, and there's no more. This application came to North York Community Council, and I put it up there because it was trying to replace 121 townhouses that are on the site with 43 townhouses, the balance of the unit in a stacked building. They're no longer single-family homes the same way, and 6 of them off-site. Now, I remember the debate in this council when we had 800-plus TCHC homes that we said we can't get the single-family homes. We can't give them up, so stop that. Don't get rid of them. Fix them. These weren't even included in that. So we set that as a policy at council to not get rid of single-family homes, except here we were getting rid of 121 townhouses for 43. And the numbers that were at TCHC said, for $10 million you can fix them, or for $10 million you can do this development. So at community council I thought that we were better off to do the development, because there may be ways to fix them. This project's been in the work in a long time, and what I objected to the project was the one on the south. The big building overhangs the ravine. It's the main street in front and the ravine in the back. So you have the haves on the south side, and you have the TCHC still separated, which I don't believe is part of the mandate that we want to have TCHC come forward with. We want an inclusive community. This wasn't it. But what really got me at the end of it, besides that, and I understand there was a lot of work done by the applicant to come down from the 1,000 to 529 market units, but less than the 121 of the old units. That should have never been 1,000 in the first place. We had this type of development and no affordable housing in it. We had a $1.1 million Section 37 for local improvements, something in the ravine and other stuff for the ward and some public art. But what's more important to us? Every time you say we want affordable housing, but it wasn't here. It wasn't here. So I had an opportunity yesterday to meet with the applicant that was here, and I said to him directly, he said, "You don't like my development?" I said, "I don't like the fact that there's no affordable housing at all." And to their credit, they're able to work with the staff overnight and come back with the local councillor now. There's 7 units. It's not 10%, it's not 5%. But I support it because it makes the statement we have to have affordable housing. We're still not meeting our goals that we want to have. So I don't believe that this is a template. I don't believe this is great to separate the units of the have and the have-nots. I don't believe it's great to not have TCHC include affordable housing. I don't, in the $10 million that we're short on it, although we may get some back from profit sharing, I understand is within our ask to the federal government for our infrastructure program. And that money could have gone somewhere else because it's all part of the TCHC larger needs. I think we have to go ahead and give clear direction to all of our agencies as to what you want to see them achieve when we go forward and redevelop properties. We have to do that in a coordinated process, and we have to know what we're going to obtain out of it in the end. Because although I raise the issue of the 1,834 units here that have no affordable housing, what's worse is the project that we're behind had none. And that can't continue. If you're going to set the example and make those demands on the industry, you have to show that you're prepared to do it yourself on your properties. I appreciate the fact that the council now has put forward the motion to add those. I think it makes the development a little bit better. I appreciate the applicants trying to work through and provide that on site. And I look forward to seeing people actually be able to buy into, afford, and move into those affordable housing units, because it'll be the best part of this development that's there.
Thank you, Councillor Shiner. Councillor Bala.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I think that from the questioning and the previous speakers, everybody in this chamber can see how difficult it is to put these revitalizations together. And so there's always somebody that is going to criticize something. There's always somebody that is going to say this could have been done better. But I think what we need to realize that here today is that we have been able to revitalize 121 homes. This is on top of the $2.6 billion backlog that TCHC has. This is not included in that. If we didn't do revitalizations like the ones that we're approving here today, our backlog would be even bigger. This community, as of right now, to fix these units, it's $15 million. In 5 years, it would be $25 million. What we need to assess at TCHC is there are certain communities that it's better to tear down and to do new. To fix units at over $200,000 a unit, it does not make sense, in particular when the planning concept, the social environment around that development was not working either. What we're trying to do here today is to work towards that. Yes, there is more density towards the ravine because that's where you literally needed to work with the developer to get the money to pay for these units. What we're doing here is to get into a partnership with the developer to pay for these 121 units. There's things that could have been done different. we are learning as well as we're going through this. But what we're seeing here today, and I think that we have to thank the community, because change is always difficult in a community. And we have to thank the residents, first of all, and apologize for the conditions that these 121 people have been living. And I probably, with Councillor Carey, invite some of you to go by and see some of these townhomes that need fixing as soon as possible, and that's what we're trying to do here. So thank you to the community for joining us and taking the time over 7 years to do this. And I thank, Councillor Shiner for pushing us to even look into having more affordable units. It is true that at TCHC, we cannot only house people. It's about looking at the individual and saying, how can we make your life better? How can we take you into the next step? How can we take you into home ownership? And we have a right opportunity here, hopefully by the end of the month, seeing that maybe 7 of those families will now move into affordable home ownership by the motion that Councillor Carroll said. So I think that together as a council, we made this project better, but I want to thank the local councillor and the local community and the local residents of TCHC for collaborating with us, for working with us over a long and hard process, but I think the improvements will be noticeable and great for this community and this city. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Cole to speak.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. At North York Community Council recently, when this item came before us, we had a deputant who, when this process started, I think was just starting grade school, and she's about to go to high school now. And so I think that puts it into perspective of how long these processes take. And while it's frustrating for us as city councillors or as the city, imagine the frustration of the person who has spent their in essence, almost a lifetime living in conditions that are really substandard and unacceptable in this city and in this day and age. So my first urging is that we need to approve this. We also need to figure out how to do these things quicker. Lawrence Heights, which was started before I was a councillor, we've had hundreds of public meetings. It's been before this council and committees dozens of times, and we're thankful that we're finally demolishing buildings now. But again, there's probably children there who have started, will graduate from school before they see any tangible developments. So we have to move this quicker. I think that there's some concern about the density that's created when we redevelop and revitalize this way, and that has to be addressed. But at the same time, it's a reality. That's how we're paying to rebuild these units. And until such time as the city and the province and the feds wants us to give big, huge novelty checks to build new units in the city, we're going to have to look at models like this. If I could just ask the Johns to maybe quiet down there.
Councillor Fillion. Councillor Fillion.
No problem. So we have to have an honest conversation in this chamber with our communities that there will be some added density in a lot of these cases. And yes, it's to pay for the development, but it's also because we want a mixed community. We're trying to fix the mistakes of the past. And again, to link it back to Lawrence Heights, to have 100 acres with no mix at all, no retail, nothing. And so that's trying to fix some of those mistakes of the past. And the other thing I'll just mention about affordable home ownership, it's something we should aspire to and trying to do more of in these developments, but it's tough. And part of the reality is it's tough for people to qualify for home ownership. We scoured through Lawrence Heights, through hundreds and hundreds of families to try and find some people who might qualify. And it's disheartening that there are so few that do, but I think that it's something we have to push towards, but also recognize that it's difficult. And that's a reality of a lot of these people who are living in some of our communities. So more than anything, I just think that we need to do this. We need to figure out how to do these quicker and more of them across the city. And hopefully this will be a unanimous vote today.
Thank you. Councillor Pasternak to speak.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just wanted to lend my voice to the emphasis on the affordable housing piece, either through affordable rental or affordable ownership. And it's clear when you look through the various programs and policies of the city, housing allowance alone will not do it, the rent supplement agreements alone will not do it, and bricks and mortar solutions of building new will not do it. We have to embed within our development proposals the essence and the importance of rental, of affordable rental and affordable ownership. And it's incumbent of all of us, as these development proposals come forward, to make sure that that is part of the conversation from the get-go. And I realize that many developers will say, well, I'll give you the affordable, but I'm not going to give you the Section 37. That need not necessarily be the case. I mean, we proved in the Tippett regeneration area that we have coming forward in the coming years 250 affordable rental and affordable ownership with a very solid Section 37 package as well. I should point out that unless we get the planning department to embed within the negotiations the unmovable concept that affordability of housing has to be part of the conversation, we will not be able to meet the goals and objectives of the needs of the city. More important, although we must pressure Build Toronto to do its role and live up to its obligations, a real estate arm is rarely a good driver of social policy, and it must be done at the grassroots level when developers are coming to us with something that they want, and then we must explain to them what we want. And I'm telling you that there are many people, 95,000 across the city, who've been waiting for years and years to have some kind of relief as far as their living costs are concerned. And there are many young families that would love to have the pride of ownership, and we can make that happen. But it's important to familiarize yourself with the programs that are available at the City of Toronto, the various funding options and banking options that are there, and to make sure that in the early negotiations of these development proposals that this is put on the table right away and is secured in the final development agreement.
Thank you. Councillor Audrey.
Thank you, Speaker. I'm going to be supporting this proposal. When it came before us, a number of times actually, not just one single time, at North York Community Council, we were all very supportive as well. I think that the local councillor, Councillor Carroll, made a valiant effort throughout these past decades, yeah, almost a decade, in fighting for this kind of development. And certainly no one can fault Councillor Shiner, the neighboring councillor. Councillor Shiner's commitment over the years for affordable housing. He's always shown a dedication, so far as I've known him, on the affordable housing file. I just want to say a couple of words about this model, for example. And we can use this model similar to the ones that have been talked about, Regent Park and Lawrence Heights and Alexander Park. In my community, which is facing perhaps the next or the one after the next model for redevelopment, there's a concern that these models are just too amplified, that there is just too much intensification on these sites, and that the economic model doesn't match the financial model. Yes, you want an economic sphere on the street, you want it to be vibrant, you want to give job opportunities for kids after school and weekend, you want retirees in the area to be given volunteer opportunities. So you need a social and economic safety net that everybody can aspire to. And what happens, though, is when you redevelop some of these communities, you don't have in place the social safety net that you need. You don't have the vibrant services that have long, in the suburbs, that have long been part of the City of Toronto fabric. And so many of the people who live in suburban TCH developments, public housing developments, often live a life that is quite awful, in fact, and bereft of anything to aspire to, any kind of model to break the cycle of poverty and violence and get out of those stringent community, the stringent items that are holding you back and would otherwise make you a very vibrant part of the wider community. So I would caution that once we go forward and choose another community after this, because there will be another one, because these are all very successful examples and models, that we not fall prey to the financial model that I think is a little dangerous, in fact, Speaker, because once we once we fall prey to that model, every unit that we take down will need a replacement of 7 to 9 units to make the financial model viable. And I just think that's too intense for some communities if you don't have an uber number of, sorry to use that word, a super number of community services to service the people who are going to be the future inhabitants of that project. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ajamari. Councillor Mihevik. Okay, just one sec. Okay.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I, of course, want to add my voice to those who applaud this development. These are complex things to pull together. We've seen them in other parts of the city, and they are a way of us renewing our affordable housing stock without adding additional city or other governmental revenue resources to it. The one little thing that I mentioned at committee that I think is good for, frankly, all of us who at some point will be negotiating something like this, that I'm hoping that we keep in mind, and it's something that has bugged some of us with other developments as well. We've asked questions, and I think it's time to turn it up a notch, and that is the division of the buildings between call it the affordable housing building and the market building. The best practices, at least that I've seen in my travels, unites them in 1 or 2 buildings. So whatever it is, so that on any floor, you knock on any door, and you don't know whether it's an affordable unit or a condo unit owned by someone of some means of one form or another. I think that's the even better model. And we've made it to this level. Now I think we need to go to kind of TCHC renovation 2.0 and try to figure out how we can push the development community. And we know what they'll say. They'll say our units become unmarketable. But some developers on the QT say, you know what, we can make a go of it. You just have to push us in the right direction. So I do hope that, when they come in Councillor de Beermaker's ward or other wards, and they say, we want to renovate your stock, and we're able to do it, we'll need some extra density. That's fine. We're good on the density side. We're good on the concept side. Now we want you to integrate them so that basically you mix it up. And mixed communities are one of our goals as a city of Toronto. We want communities where you don't know the origins, the class status, the income level of anyone on any floor. That, I think, makes the richest and best communities. We achieved some of that here, but we didn't get right to the highest goal, and I hope that this is something that we can achieve in future projects. I wasn't going to mention that, but seeing that there's been a good conversation, I think that's an important part of the conversation too. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Okay, so on the amendment, recorded vote.
Councillor DiCiano, please. Councillor Campbell, please.
The amendment carries unanimously, 39 in favor.
Clause is amended. Oh, sorry, another amendment. There it is, recorded vote.
Councillor Karygiannis, please. Councillor McMahon, Councillor Wong-Tam, please.
The Second Amendment also carries unanimously, 39 in favor.
Clause is amended. All in favor? Opposed? Pardon? Recorded vote.
Councillor Matlow, please. Councillor Pasternak, Councillor Wong-Tam, Councillor Perruzza, and Councillor DiGiorgio, please.
Councillor Crawford, please.
The item as amended carries unanimously, 39 in favor.
Thank you. Now, our last item, Councillor Ainslie, we're waiting for facilities and real estate. It's on the government management report that
Thank
was
you, Madam-
circulated.
Yep, thank you, Madam Speaker.
Expropriation of storm sewer easement and questions.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I believe staff are here. If they could just give a brief explanation of why this needs to be done, why it was before government management, and the implications if it's not done.
Through you, Madam Chair. My name is Tim Park. I'm the Manager of Acquisitions and Expropriations and Real Estate Services. The requirement for this expropriation is for a storm sewer to be upgraded. The implications, if this report is not approved today by Council, is that we do not meet the legislative timelines of the Expropriations Act, and we would have to start the process over again.
Oh. Okay, and so part of this has to do with the 2005 Hogs Hollow Stormwater Management Road Improvement Environmental Assessment Study. So not doing this would have a huge impact on a wide area of this area. It's not just like one homeowner, correct?
That's correct. Sorry.
Okay, and the cost. So and the other part I think that needs to be clear about this, when we talk about we're expropriating to get an easement, it's for a small piece of the property to run a storm sewer underneath it. That the property will, once this is done, so the storm sewer is going to run under the property. The property will all be returned to its original state. Correct?
That's correct, Councillor, and the easement actually runs right down the property line, so it's at the side of the property. It does not go underneath the residential dwelling at all, and when the work is completed, the property will be restored to its previous condition.
Okay, so when you say it's not going to run down the middle of the property, if everybody at Appendix C, which is this map here, there's an easement area. They've got kind of a triangular piece of property, and the storm sewer is running over under the one corner of their backyard.
That's correct, what's known as Part 1 on that sketch.
Okay, all right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Layton, questions?
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. And I don't know if anyone's here from Toronto Water. I don't see anyone. So I just wanted to confirm, and Councillor Ainslie has alluded to this, this doesn't only impact this property. Could you tell us which properties it does impact with respect to the stormwater management and the flood protection? I found it in a report. I'm trying to find it again, but you may know off the top of your head.
Madam Chair, I'm Rafi Bedrosian, Manager of Engineering Construction Services. I can address the question. This easement is needed to bring in a storm sewer from Brookfield down the Parquet through this easement to Plimbridge to the river. And this is a sewer needed to provide storm runoff collection for a portion of the Hogs Hollow neighborhood. So it's a small piece of property needed to pass this storm sewer, as I said, from Brookfield through the park down to Plimbridge Crescent.
So I'm not terribly familiar with the Hogs Hollow neighborhood. That might not come as a surprise to many. But the drainage issue, this is part of the stormwater, of the wet weather flow master plan. This was a basement flooding issue in Hogs Hollow?
Yes, as well as not only basement flooding, but localized surface flooding to
you
prevent that.
Thank you. Are you able to give me any indication of how much money was spent on the original environmental assessment that made the recommendation to do this?
Sorry, I don't have that information.
Okay, thank you very much.
Councillor Robinson, questions?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Most of my questions have been answered. I just wanted to clarify one piece. I know that the residents that are being impacted by this, they did take this on, and my impression, or their impression, was they won this issue. The inquiry officer supported their position. Can you clarify that, because it's confusing?
Through you, Madam Chair, the homeowners did ask for what's called a hearing of necessity, which they're entitled to under the Expropriations Act. That hearing is then heard by an inquiry officer that is appointed by the provincial government. The inquiry officer bases his report on evidence that is given by the city and by the homeowners or any professional support they may bring to that hearing. In this case, the inquiry officer's report felt that the city had other options it could have pursued, and that's what the inquiry officer's report states. City staff feel that they're not in agreement with that report, and council does have the ability, if they so choose to do so, approve the expropriation plan to be registered regardless of the inquiry officer's report.
If I may just add to that, the inquiry officer's report is not binding on council at all.
Oh, okay. So it's not binding. Oh, that's very helpful. I didn't understand that. That's great. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Ainslie, are you going to speak?
Sure. Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to be moving the original recommendations in the report. As I mentioned earlier, I chair the Government Management Committee. This report was originally before us at our February 22nd meeting. It passed unanimously. This is kind of new for me. I'm not used to pulling items off of my own agenda to be dealt with at City Council, but the reason it was done is it's urgent. There's a 90-day period from when the residents are notified to when this has to be done at City Council. If we wait until the end of April, we have to go right back to the beginning of the expropriation process. As I mentioned earlier, this is kind of the culmination of a study on flood management, basement flooding, neighborhood flooding that went back to 2005. It's now 10 years later. This is kind of the final phase of it. Unfortunately, they've had a disagreement with the homeowner about an easement for a storm sewer under the corner of their property. If you look at Appendix C, sorry, I don't have it on the overhead, but it is a small corner of their property that the storm sewer is running under. It's basically their property line. The property is going to be returned to its original. Thank you, Councillor Perks. So Councillor Perks, my assistant, is going to put it up on the overhead for me.
Yeah, Vanna Perks.
Looks terrible. It's shadowing. So the corner, the easement area that you look at, the corner, is the area where this corner of the storm water management sewer is going to go under this property. They need an easement for that. The dotted line is where it is going to continue on. If the city doesn't have this expropriation to do this easement, we go back to the drawing board. It's going to be millions of dollars to put this whole process back in place, something that's been taking over 10 years, and this is kind of the final last bit of it to deal with. So I hope that everybody will support the Government Management Committee where this was passed unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Robinson to speak.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. And I'm just going to be voting against this on behalf of the residents that are impacted. It's been a very challenging process for them, and I feel I need to represent their concerns of the impact on their property, so I'll be voting against it.
Thank you. Councillor Layton.
I quite frankly wish I could ask the local councillor to explain why she would respond to the request of this one neighbor when quite clearly the impacts are to an entire street, Brookfield to the north, that it quite clearly says in the reports. This was a flood protection measures that did an EA in 2005. Staff have identified this as, quote, the most logical, strategic, and cost-effective choice for us to implement a basement flood management plan. And that this tiny little piece will affect the neighbors, all the neighbors on Brookfield, the drainage on that street. Now again, it's not that I have reserved my sympathies for those with rather significant lot sizes and housing sizes on Hogs Hollow. I would think about this in any neighborhood. If you spend the money to do a flood management, we have a list of dozens of studies, back studies to do on flood management. If the local councillor doesn't wish to implement the recommendations that are made in her area, I would suggest let's start with the EAs in all the other neighborhoods and wards in the city, because I'm sure that your neighborhoods would appreciate you voting for the cost-effective, logical, and strategic measures that will help entire streets full of people. And I certainly hope that that those residents on Brookfield don't get wind that their councillor is not supporting the logical, strategic, and most cost-effective way of protecting their properties from flood damage.
Okay, on the item recorded vote.
Councillor Perruzza, please. Councillor Pasternak, please. Councillor Matlow.
Councillor DiCiano, please.
The item carries 28-7.
Thank you. Councillor Kelly, you have a motion to introduce certain bills.
I do, Speaker, that leave be granted to introduce bills 203 to 250 inclusive.
Thank you. Shall leave be granted to introduce these bills? Recorded vote.
Councillor Perruzza, please. Councillor DiGiorgio. Councillor Perks, please. Councillor Matlow. Councillor Kelly, please. Councillor Shiner, please.
Councillor Robinson, please.
Councillor Kelly, your vote, please.
The motion to introduce bills carries unanimously, 35 in favor.
Shall these bills be passed and declared as a bylaw? Recorded vote.
Councillor Layton, please.
Councillor McConnell. Councillor Crawford, please.
Councillor Shiner. Councillor Pasternak.
The motion to enact the bills carries unanimously, 35 in favor.
Councillor Mihevc, you have a motion regarding absentees.
Yes, that council excuse the absence of the following councillors from the March 10th City Council meeting: Councillor Crisanti, Councillor Ford, Councillor Grimes, Councillor Palacio.
All those in favor, recorded vote.
Who do you want to?
Councillor Perruzza, please. Councillor Lee, please.
Councillor Mihevc, please.
Councillor Carmichael Greb, please. And Councillor Pasternak.
Okay, members of council, we still have some more votes to be taken, so if you can please take your seat.
Councillor Pasternak, please. Councillor Lee, please.
The motion to excuse absentees carries unanimously, 35 in favor.
Councillor Carroll, you have a motion to introduce the confirming bill.
Yes, Madam Speaker, that leave be granted to introduce a bill to confirm to the point of the introduction of this motion the proceedings of City Council, meeting 15 on March 10th, 2016.
Shall leave be granted to introduce this bill, recorded vote.
Councillor Perruzza, please. Councillor DeGiorgio. Councillor McMahon. Councillor Layton.
Councillor Mihevc, please.
Councillor Layton, please. Councillor Lee, please. And Councillor Shiner.
The motion to adopt the confirming bill carries unanimously, 35 in favor.
Shall this bill be passed and declared as a bylaw, recorded vote? Pardon?
Councillor Lee, please. Councillor Layton. Councillor McMahon. Councillor Pasternak, please.
Councillor Mihevc, please.
Councillor Layton, please.
The motion to enact the confirming bill carries unanimously, 35 in favor.
Now, members of council, as you know, we're back here at 2 o'clock for the special council meeting, so this meeting is adjourned.